The old diesel truck coughed loudly before falling silent completely, parked beside the tool shed. The engine had a life of its own, just like the house's power generator, which had already failed 3 times that week. "It's a gas guzzler," Dad used to say. We always kept a gas can next to the outdoor cabinet in emergency measure. We knew we'd need sooner or later. That's just how life was out there. Everything patched up, everything precarious, but functional at least most of the time. The night before, the usual calm of the farm was shattered by the frenzied barking of the dogs. Dad, used to minor intrusions from wild animals, grabbed his shotgun and stepped outside with heavy footsteps. I followed, carrying a flashlight. "Stay behind me," he ordered, his gaze fixed on the darkness. The dogs had surrounded the pigsty, their bodies tense, as if facing something invisible. There was a metallic smell in the air, a mix of blood and damp earth. As we got closer, we saw the scene. One of the pigs was dead, thrown against the broken fence. Its skin had been torn off in patches, exposing its ribs. The eyes looked like they had been clawed out. "Cougar," Dad said, but the word came out hesitant. I looked at him, noticing the doubt in his voice. "Was it a cougar, Dad?" I asked, my eyes wide. He didn't answer immediately. He inspected the surroundings, but there were no tracks, no clear signs of a struggle. Back inside, he reinforced the locks on the doors and muttered to himself, "It's just an animal. I'll take care of it tomorrow." But deep down, something was bothering him. That strange smell, the silence that took over the forest after the barking stopped, like the woods themselves were too afraid to breathe. That night, I had trouble sleeping. I woke up twice, swearing I heard something scratching against the wood outside. The second time, I tried to ignore it, but an inexplicable shiver ran down my spine. Dad didn't sleep either. He stayed in the living room, his shotgun within reach, listening to the intermittent hum of the generator outside. On the 3rd failure of the machine, he almost went to check, but changed his mind. In the morning, he thought, as if making a hollow promise. He had no idea that dawn would bring more than just a simple generator repair. Something was lurking out there, something that wasn't a cougar, nor anything he could face alone. And it was just getting started. The sun had barely risen when Dad stepped outside. I followed, dragging my feet, still heavy from lack of sleep. The smell of the dead pig already filled the air sour and nauseating. The fence was still broken, and the chickens wouldn't stop clucking, restless, as if something was still prowling nearby. "Go get the tarp from the shed," Dad told me, holding the flashlight. I hesitated, glancing at the woods around us, but obeyed. When I returned with the tarp, he had already dragged the pig out of the pen, trying to ignore the state of the animal. The body was almost unrecognizable. The claw marks were deep and misshapen, as if the creature that attacked it had inhuman strength. Dad tried to rationalize it. It was a cougar. It had to be a cougar. But the absence of tracks and the eerie silence from the previous day still unsettled him. We wrapped the pig in the tarp and dragged it to a hole near the back fence, where Dad usually buried animals that died. The work was slow and unpleasant, and even the crows that usually hovered around stayed away, as if they sensed the danger. "Done. It's over," Dad said, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. But he knew he was lying. The rest of the day was filled with an uncomfortable silence. I tried to keep up with the daily chores, but the tension in the air was palpable. "Dad, are you going to leave the fence like that?" I asked in the late afternoon, but he just shook his head. "I'll take care of it tomorrow. I'm going to check the generator before night falls," he replied, grabbing his tools from the shed. He spent the entire afternoon trying to get the damn engine to work properly, but the problem seemed bigger than he thought. The gas can next to the cabinet remained untouched, but every time he passed by it, an inexplicable unease crept up his spine. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of blood red, and the tension on the farm only grew. I brought the dogs closer to the house and locked up the pigsty. "Dad, are we going to sleep early tonight?" I asked as the lights started flickering. "Yeah, we are," he replied. But Dad had no intention of sleeping. Something inside him screamed that the night would bring worse problems than the broken generator. As we ate dinner, the dogs started barking again. This time, it wasn't just a warning, it was pure terror. Dad stood up, grabbed his shotgun, and looked at me. "Stay inside." "But what about you, Dad?" I asked, gripping his arm tightly. "I'll be right back. I just need to see what it is." But deep down, he knew he wasn't prepared for what awaited outside. The night was alive, breathing around the house like a beast stalking its prey, and it hadn't bared its teeth yet. When he stepped out, the sight was horrifying. 2 of the dogs were dead, their bodies twisted at impossible angles, as if crushed by something monstrous. The 3rd one was barking at the darkness, but suddenly fell silent, letting out an agonizing yelp before dragged into the woods. Dad smelled it. It wasn't just blood, it was something deeper, like rotting flesh mixed with sulfur. He shone his flashlight toward the trees, and what he saw made his blood freeze. Glowing yellow eyes, burning like embers. "Who's there?" he shouted, his voice betraying his fear. The answer came as a guttural growl, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself. Then a figure emerged. It wasn't a man, nor an animal. It was something in between, with deformed muscles and black fur that seemed to pulse. Its long, dirty claws gleamed under the weak beam of the flashlight. The creature lunged with impossible speed. Dad fired. The gunshot echoed through the night, but the monster didn't stop. The impact only seemed to enrage it. He was thrown to the ground with a heavy blow, his shotgun flying out of reach. As he tried to get up, he saw the creature tearing into one of the dogs, as if it were a mere snack. Inside the house, I heard my father's screams and started praying, but I knew prayers wouldn't be enough. I grabbed the machete Dad kept behind the door, my heart pounding as heavy footsteps drew closer. The door exploded inward, and the creature stepped inside, its eyes locked onto me. I screamed, terrified, but didn't back down. When the monster lunged, I struck with all my strength hitting its face. A horrific howl filled the air, but the machete got stuck in its thick flesh. Dad, injured, dragged himself to the doorway and saw the scene. I was struggling as the monster held me by the arm, lifting me like a rag doll. "Let go of my daughter, you bastard." Dad grabbed the gas can with trembling hands and doused the creature before striking a match. The fire engulfed the monster, which thrashed in agony, dropping me. The smell of burning flesh was nauseating, but even in flames, the creature didn't die. With one final roar, it sprinted into the woods, vanishing into the darkness. We survived, but we weren't unscathed. My father lost his right arm that night, and I was left with scars that will never fade. Despite everything, we decided to stay on the farm. We reinforced the fences, started keeping watch and shifts, and always kept our weapons close. But the howl of that creature still echoes in my nightmares. I know it's not dead. I know that one day it will come back to finish what it started. And all we can do is be ready to face it.